Welcome everyone to BoomerWorks. We are delighted to have you here for our rousing presentation on confidence on demand. And I'm delighted to introduce Ken Fleisher, who is an expert in helping people network with confidence. Through his research in neuroscience and psychology and human behavior, he's discovered that it is possible to quickly and permanently end stage fright and become a confident public speaker for any occasion. So I'm just thrilled to have Ken with us. He has a really detailed presentation, some stuff that's going to be literally mind-blowing. And so we look forward to having him. So Ken, take it away.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks for having me here. It's a great honor. And wow, that's not going. All right, let's try with the clicks. Not advancing with the arrow. There we go. So yeah, so today, thanks for inviting me to join you today. And we'll be talking about network nervousness. And basically, we'll start with talking about what is stage fright and get to that in just a moment. Then we'll move on to how my confidence on demand technique works. And then we'll talk about the first steps to breaking through your network nervousness. And finally, at the end, I'll give you the confidence on demand strategy itself. So before I get into the details, just a quick background. So I do work with clients on stage fright. Now I said we talked about what is stage fright. Well, stage fright, it's networking, but it's also when you're standing on a stage speaking to a whole audience of people. It can be what I'm doing right now in a Zoom call, talking to people remotely. It can be talking to 5 colleagues in a conference room. It can be one-on-one even. Stage fright is actually more like an umbrella term. It's not just stage speaking. So when you're at a networking event and you know that you want to approach people, and you know that you need to so that you can advance your career and your connection, but your anxiety or nervousness just kind of gets in the way or inhibits you from doing it well or at all. That is stage fright. And there is, luckily, an easy way that you can manage that. So as an example, so Vicky was a client of mine. She had stage fright for 14 years, and in only 18 days of coaching was able to permanently get rid of it. And Brittany had it for 17 years, and in just 20 days, it was totally gone. So this works really well. And I've had numerous clients where, and I'm not going to share all of them with you, obviously, but it just works. This technique really does work, and it's quite easy. So what is stage fright? Stage fright is, like I said, it's a number of different things, but what causes it? Stage fright, in its most basic way, is just really an activation of your fight or flight response. So, in our primal brain, we have fight, flight, food, and fornicate. Those are known as the 4 Fs. The ones in red, those are bad, okay? Fight or flight, you want to avoid those things, bad. Food, fornicate, those are good. They perpetuate the species. You want more of that. So in your amygdala, we're not going to get too much into the details, but just so you know, in your amygdala, every experience that you have gets filtered through the amygdala and essentially encoded as good or bad. It's assigned essentially an emotional experience grade, if you will, or you can give it any kind of name like that. But things that you experience that are dangerous are then easily recalled with the emotions of fright, or it's scary or it's dangerous. And that's what's going to make you want to avoid that. And things that are good get a positive emotion assigned to them. They make you feel good. You get your all those good chemicals in the brain, the dopamine and all that, and you want more of it. Okay, so the body is physically giving you signals with chemicals what to avoid, what to get more, what to go after again and get more of. And this is all happening subconsciously. So what actually is happening? When you get stage fright, your heart rate increases, your blood flow to the brain decreases. You can read the list of things. I'm not going to read them all off, but you know the typical symptoms of stage fright. You know, your voice wobbles, your mind goes blank. A lot of people just can't even think what to say. And that's something that might happen a lot when you're networking, actually. It used to happen to me some years ago. I used to hate networking events. And I'd just be the guy in the corner just waiting for it to end so I can go home. But it doesn't have to be that way. So what's happening is the brain is saying, okay, this is a bad situation. We need to get out of here. It's equating your experience of networking or whatever speaking situation as no different from being chased by a tiger, you know, a survival technique. So your brain is saying, danger, run away, increased heart rate. So, you know, you get more of the energy, decreased blood flow to the brain so that more blood is available to send to your muscles for the quick energy. Your digestion shuts down. That's why you feel a lack of appetite or possibly even a little nauseous. Your extremities, the fingers and the toes, lose the circulation is taken away from those areas so that it can go to your large muscles and you can run faster. And these are all the things that happen automatically as soon as that fight or flight response kicks in. So why is that happening at a network event? It's not like you're being chased by a tiger. Well, it turns out that some dangers are real, like a fire or a tiger, and you really should have that fight or flight response and go into survival mode and do what you can to save yourself. But some dangers are imagined. And so stage fright is actually classified as a phobia. It's a subclass of a social phobia known as glossophobia. And why is it that you're imagining that this is a danger? So chances are it was something that happened in your past, usually when you were a child in your formative years, although it doesn't have to be that way. Perhaps you were in school and or let's say you went to a new school and you went up to some of the new kids to try and make friends. And they were, kids can be cliquey, right? And so they were all just like really rude and maybe they made fun of you and you realize, okay, that was a bad thing to do. Now, you wouldn't have consciously known it, but your brain has just classified that as a type of event to avoid. So perhaps it's happened more than once. The repetition of it makes that even stronger. And the problem is, as you get older, and then the situation comes up because now you're at a networking event, or perhaps now you're just at work meeting coworkers. Now all of a sudden the brain is saying, hey, I've got this thing filed away. If that was a danger, you need to not do this. You need to get away from this. So all of a sudden you're just trying to meet your coworkers or network, and your heart rate starts racing and your voice starts quivering and you can't remember your own name maybe, or at least something good to say. And and that's basically what's happening is the fight or flight response is kicking in because it's equating the situation you're in with something that happened in your past. So the solution is actually remarkably easy. You just turn off the fight or flight response. And you're like, okay, well, how do I do that? Well, we're going to talk about how to do that today. So turning it off, it does a few things. First, it can makes the relaxation process quicker. So if you are at your networking event and you start to experience some nervousness or anxiety or stage fright, if you will, and you're managed to use the technique I'm going to show you, what that will do is it will help you calm down and come out of it faster. So the other thing you can do is if you notice at a networking event that perhaps you're about to begin to feel some of the anxiety and nervousness starting, like you didn't have any issue up until that moment, in order to prevent it from escalating into a full-fledged sort of stage fright situation, you can use the confidence on demand strategy to kind of stop it in its tracks. And the best use of it is where you can stop the symptoms from appearing in the first place. So let's say you know that you have a history of getting some anxiety or nervousness at a networking event or any speaking situation. You can use this before you go in, and it will help you to be in a state where the fight or flight will never activate. It will never kick in. And that's really the best scenario, because then you have, then you can just do whatever you want to do and present yourself the way you want to present yourself. Make the impression that you're trying to make rather than the impression of someone who's having difficulty at a networking event. All right, so now let's talk about how do you actually turn off the fight or flight response? Because it would be really great if it was just a switch and it was that easy. And luckily, it is almost that easy. You just have to know what switches to flip. No, I'm not recommending alcohol is one of the things that you do. But we talked about how fight or flight is triggered by negative emotions, right? So you had some negative experience in the past, and now you're having a similar situation, which is being equated with that and that negative emotion, and therefore the fight or flight response is kicking in. So somehow the situation of networking has a negative association with this event in your past. So I'm showing the glass, not for the alcohol, but because you've heard the glass is either, is it half full or is it half empty? And I'm sure you've heard, lots of stories and explanations about the psychology of that along the way. What we're going to talk about is negativity bias. So there was a study where they took two groups of people, the scientists doing the study, psychologists. And in the first group, they told them, okay, you have X medical problem, and we'd like to do an experimental surgery on you. It's a fairly new technique, but it's had a 70% success rate. So would you want to give that surgery a try? And overwhelmingly, yeah, everybody wanted to do that in that first group. So then they went to the second group and they said the same thing. You have this medical condition and we have an experimental surgery for that. And we'd like to try that on you, but it does have a 30% failure rate. Would you like to try that? Guess what? They didn't want to try it. No experimental surgery, 30% failure rate. No, thank you. Of course, it's the exact same thing as 70% success rate. But people wanted it when it was framed as a success and not as a negative, a failure. So then the experimenters turned it around. They went back to the first group and they said, we told you, yes, it does have a 70% success rate, but it has a 30% failure rate. Do you still want to try this new experimental surgery? And overwhelmingly, they changed their mind. And no, they did not want to do that surgery anymore. And so now they go to the second group. And they say, yes, well, okay, it has a 30% failure rate, but it does have a 70% success rate. And we think it could really help you. Would you like to try that surgery now, that experimental surgery? And guess what? No, they still didn't want to. So the result of this is that if it's framed first as a positive and then reframed as a negative, you're going to go towards that negative. Okay, you're going to have a bias towards it. But if it's first framed as a negative and then the same situation is reframed as a positive, you're not going to switch over to the positive. We are so much more likely to gravitate towards the negative. That is the negativity bias. So glass half full, glass half empty. if you have this negative experience in your past that's associated with networking or public speaking, it is much harder to flip that to a positive than it is for you to get a problem, a new problem from a negative experience and get from the positive to negative. That's kind of not good to hear, is it? The good news is that knowing this, we can work with it. Okay, there are things we can do. So the idea is that we are much more likely to gravitate towards the negative, and we have a negative experience in our past that's giving us this fight or flight response in our non-threatening adult life situations. So, oh yeah, the button's not working. All right, so the answer is actually simple. To reframe and shift your focus, be happy. Okay, so the idea here is, and this is the basis of everything I'm going to teach you about the confidence on demand strategy. The happier you are in general, the easier it is for you to overcome this. So you're just looking for positive emotions, and how can that be bad anyhow, right? I mean, this you can use this not for public speaking, not for networking, just whenever you feel like feeling good. So what I'm going to show you are a number of things that will help you to just basically be more happy. All right, now before I move on to the next slide, the strategy itself is something you can use when you are in the situation where you need it. But what the first things I'm going to show you are to take sort of your baseline level of happiness and to elevate it. Because the happier you are overall in general as a person, then the more likely it is that this technique will work for you quickly and easily. And all of the things I'm going to suggest are really just good things to do anyhow. So it really doesn't hurt. I keep reaching for my key. It's not working. All right, so the first steps to breaking through network nervousness. Okay, prepare and know your material. So what do I mean by this? Well, if you are public speaking, if you're giving a speech, obviously prepare your material, know what you're talking about. What I'm doing right now, I need to know this material if I'm going to give a good presentation. But when you're networking, there are certain things you can do to prepare, even though a lot of it is sort of improvised, if you will, and it's just sort of natural interactions with other people. There are some things that you do know that are going to happen. Someone's going to ask you, well, what is it that you do, right? I mean, that's almost a given. And if you have some anxiety around networking or a little bit of nervousness, prepare that in advance. Nobody is really wanting to hear you talk for 5 minutes as you introduce yourself. They want the 2 or 3 sentence quick version. So prepare that in advance, write it out and practice it. Make that second nature so that as soon as someone asks you, you can just give it a natural response that you've done many times already. So that's one way that you can just sort of help be prepared for a networking situation. There's also other common questions that people are likely to ask, and depending on what field you're in, those questions will likely vary. So just think about what sort of questions there are at a networking event and just prepare some general answers that you can have ready so that you aren't stuck trying to remember or think of something on the spot if you're also fighting the nervousness.
Hey, Ken, can I go ahead and interrupt you for just 1 sec?
Absolutely.
To let everyone know that last month, I think it was, we had Maggie Sterner here, and she talked about how to craft your 30-second elevator pitch. It's a terrific presentation. Go ahead and go to our BoomerWorks.org site under the Training Center, and then go to Marketing Your Business, and you'll go ahead and see the video for that. So crafting your elevator pitch using what's called pitch power. That's from Maggie Sterner, and that can help you to prepare your material before you go to a networking event.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That sounds perfect. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And there's another half of it, though, when it comes to networking, which is you need to also show interest in other people as you're meeting people and networking. So have some questions prepared that, some intelligent questions for your industry or for your field that make sense that you would want to ask of people that you're meeting at a networking type of event. Something beyond what do you do, and what is your name, obviously. So if you have a few things like that prepared in advance, that can help take a little bit of that edge off, and maybe help with the nervousness. It's not working. All right, now this one I love. You can just smile. And the truth is, it doesn't matter if you're happy, if you're really feeling like smiling. It doesn't matter if you're nervous or having anxiety. The physical act of smiling, using these muscles to put your mouth in that position, actually signals your brain, oh, happy. It literally tells your brain to be happy when you smile, whether you mean it or not. And this has been proven with studies. So even people who are definitely not happy, if they just smile, it turns out they get that little dopamine hit. And whatever else is going on in the brain, and they have that slight shift and they feel better, and it brings you closer to happiness. So just throughout the day, just smile a lot. I mean, who doesn't want to smile a lot anyhow, right? So I love that tip because it's so simple and there's nothing to it. And it's easy to do and it makes people feel good when you smile. So it's good all around. So gratitude, yes, gratitude is proven by numerous studies to increase happiness. So what I'm proposing is two different types of gratitude that you can express. Now you might do a search on the internet and you will find all kinds of stuff about how to express gratitude and sample things and how to keep a gratitude journal. And I'm not going to say any of it is bad. There's no bad advice about gratitude. But there are some things that are shown and proven to be, or rather to work better than others. So what I'm going to propose that you do is to keep a gratitude journal, but to do it differently than um, than you might think. First of all, don't write in it every day. This is a once per week activity. It has been shown that when you do this once per week, it's more effective. And when you do write in a gratitude journal, start by writing down 5 things that you're grateful for. Now, when you do that, the 5 things that you pick from the week that you're grateful for, they don't all have to be this, but focus on people. Put an emphasis on people and on unexpected events, that things that happened unexpectedly that you're grateful have happened. And it doesn't have to be exclusively those, but if you put an emphasis on it, those 2 things are shown to have greater impact and to work better with gratitude toward bringing you more happiness. When you write them down, describe them in detail. Don't just write down what it is or who it was. Describe in detail why you're grateful, what happened. Put it down. And last, you want to imagine what your life would be like without the thing you're grateful for and describe that feeling. So don't just stop at the positive, but describe what would be missing if that wasn't there, because that's almost as important. And if you do that every week, then 3 months from now, 6 months from now, you go back and you can review your journal once in a while and you see those things. And I think you'll find it's quite remarkable. And this is how you take your baseline happiness from here up to here, up to here. It has a compounding effect and it really does help. The second type of gratitude that I recommend is what I call personal gratitude. Now, this is where you will express gratitude directly to somebody. And this is a little bit different than writing in the journal when you focus on people. This is actually telling the person that you're grateful. And I do recommend doing this daily, once per day. Um, it has a tremendous effect on both of you. I mean, imagine you're at the store and the checkout clerk gives you your change, and you just express how grateful you are about how efficient they were, and you appreciate that they were so friendly. How good is that going to make the clerk feel? How good will that make you feel? It's fantastic, and it has that compounding effect. You know, it just brings you inches up your level of happiness, and it just makes everybody like you more. There's nothing bad about doing this. It has to be sincere, of course. Don't just make stuff up. That wouldn't really help anyone. But definitely express personal gratitude daily if possible. And if it's not possible to do it daily, just frequently. At least try and do it frequently. And those are the two types of gratitude that I definitely recommend. Um, there we go. So now let's talk about confidence on demand. You have sort of the background information now. Let's talk about how does confidence on demand work to reframe from negative to positive and take and disarm that fight or flight response. You've probably heard of Pavlov's dogs. Well, if you haven't, so the Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov was doing an experiment with dogs on how they salivate, what causes the saliva. And he would have his assistant carry their meals down the hallway every night for dinner. What he began to notice was that when the dogs would hear his footsteps at the other end of the hallway, they'd begin to salivate then. It wasn't only when they received their food. They began to anticipate and recognize that the assistant walking down the hallway meant their food was coming. And so Pavlov decided to try and experiment with that. He said, well, what if that cue can be replaced with a different cue, a different trigger? So he found another way to deliver the food. I'm not sure how he worked that differently, but instead of the footsteps coming down the hall, he would ring a bell and then present the dogs with the food. And then he'd ring the bell and then they'd get the food. And after some time, the dogs began to associate the bell with the idea that their food was coming. So they begin to salivate when they hear the bell. So this is what is called the conditioning process. And what conditioning is when you associate a desired response with an anchor or a trigger, some cue. And for Pavlov's dogs, that was the assistant walking down the hallway and then replaced later by the bell. Oh, the button's working now. Got it. Okay, so for confidence on demand, basically, we are going to condition ourselves. So what are we going to condition? The desired response, what is that? The desired response is positive emotion. Because right now, when we get the fight or flight response kicking in, that's a negative emotion taking over. We want to overpower that with a positive one. We want to preemptively prevent it from showing up with positive emotion. So the response is the positive emotion. Now we need a trigger. So you can see in the little picture, I've got the little fingers. So basically, you're going to just tap your fingers 3 times. And it's actually that simple. 1, 2, 3. Okay? We'll talk about how you'll condition in just a moment. But that's the cue. 1, 2, 3. That's the trigger. And the response is a positive emotion. The next thing we can do is learn how to breathe a little bit different. Now, people in show business know this trick. Public speakers know this trick. Singers certainly know this trick. but there are a lot of different ways that you can breathe to get different effect in the body. What we're going to learn is diaphragmatic breathing. What this does is it slows your heart rate and helps you relax. And by doing so, it helps to obstruct the fight or flight response because, of course, one of the things that often happens is the elevated heart rate. Now, keep in mind, not everyone gets all the same symptoms. Someone might have nervousness or anxiety without an elevated heart rate. It might just be their mind going blank. It manifests in many different ways. But the heart rate is a fairly common one, so this definitely helps. So the way that you do is you breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. Now, when you're breathing from your chest fills and then your chest goes down. When you breathe from the diaphragm, you breathe in through your nose and your belly should expand, not your chest. And then you breathe out through your mouth. And by doing that, you actually help slow your heart rate. Now, my daughter is 6, and she's got these amazing like meditation things for kids, and they did the cleverest thing. They had them, it's this light music in the background, and the calm voice which is talking them through this meditation is, oh, and you're in a field, and smell the flowers. Now blow away the dandelion. And she's she's giving them diaphragmatic breathing without them knowing it. And it's very clever, and it definitely, this is something that works and it helps calm you. So that's one of the techniques I want you to know. Oh, see, that time didn't go. All right, I don't know why. There we go. So let's talk about the moment. The positive emotion is, we don't want just something positive. Pick something in your life which is the happiest moment you can recall. Now, I'm talking about, and we've all got probably at least one, if not a few of these moments, where if you still remember it pretty vividly, and you remember being there, and you just wanted time to stand still. You did not want that moment to ever end. Everything was perfect. That's the moment that you want to select. Okay, so that will have a strong positive emotion attached to it. It's got to be something that's very strong because we're trying to stop the fight or flight response from taking over. Okay, so basically, when you get this memory, and you're going to then begin, in order to do the conditioning process, you begin by breathing to relax, do your diaphragmatic breathing. And then while you're doing it, recall the memory and use all of your senses. What are you seeing? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel? Tactile. Recall everything about the scene. And then while you're doing that, periodically use your anchor. You're associating now this anchor with that feeling. Now let's be clear. The important thing is not the event itself. Of course, that's important. But what we are after here is the emotion that that event makes you feel. That's our goal. So you're tapping the fingers and associating it with the emotion you feel when you relive that event. Doesn't that sound awesome? Now here's what's going to happen. This is a sort of a recap of what I mentioned before. You can use it to prevent fight or flight from kicking in. So use it before you go into your networking event. You have that positive emotion and the nervousness never gets a chance to take hold. Or if you're there and you notice it starting to take hold, you can catch it. Tap your fingers, you feel the emotion, and it will immediately sort of cut it off, disarm it. Or if it gets further than that before you realize or remember about the confidence on demand technique, you can use that to help you come back down and get back into a good place much more quickly. Now, when you are in the conditioning process, you'll be tapping your fingers, you'll be reliving the event, thinking about what did I see, what did I hear, what did I feel, all those things. And it'll take you some time till you call up that full emotion and make that association. But over time, the repetition will cause your brain to say, hey, this is something happening over and over. I guess that's important. I'm going to file that away. And what's going to happen is you're going to be able to tap your fingers and instantly your brain will call up that emotion for you. Just like with fight or flight, you get to the event and it says, oh, danger, and all of a sudden your heart starts racing. Okay, that immediate and reaction is based on a negative emotion. You're causing an immediate reaction based on the positive emotion. And it will take probably about 2 months of doing it daily before you can feel the instant result. So you'll tap your fingers and then instantly feel it, but it won't take too long before you'll feel it quickly at least, right? So this is something that you need to practice daily. It takes 5 minutes, maybe a day, and it's fun. You know, you can do it. Well, there's different ways. We'll talk about how to do it in just a moment. When to practice it. Well, actually, we'll talk about it now because that was the next part. So what comes next? What comes next is the schedule. Let's go ahead and do the recap. So the fear comes from a negative emotional experience in the past. The goal is to shift your focus from something negative to something positive. You're going to start by creating a foundation of happiness, which raises the baseline of happiness that you have, which gives confidence on demand a much stronger chance of being successful for you. And then you're going to condition your positive emotional response with an anchor. So how do you practice this? This is part of the what's next part. Basically do this daily. So you have to do it at least once a day until it becomes an instant response. So you're going to eventually be able to tap your fingers, not consciously recall your event, but you'll have the benefit of that emotion coming straight up. But that does take a little time. So if you do it daily, it will take somewhere between 2 to 3 months for that association to become automatic and instant. You can speed that up. So one thing that's been learned from habit formation, now this is not a habit per se, but there are similarities that we can draw some conclusions with. With habits, well, the general kind of theory was it takes on average 66 days for a new habit to form. People have been saying that for quite some time. It's been repeated many times. The more it's repeated, the more it's repeated. And it's based on some observation. Sometimes it does take longer than 6 days. Sometimes it can be quicker, a lot quicker. It turns out that that's not actually correct. So they were misinterpreting the results because they weren't considering all the variables. It turns out that what drives how quickly a new habit becomes automatic, is the frequency with which you repeat it. So if you do something once a day, every day, in about 66 days on average, that will become an automatic habit. If, however, you do it twice per day, on average, it will now take 33 days to become an automatic habit. So basically, we can use that the brain is doing a similar function. We can use that information to make this go faster. So if you practice the confidence on demand conditioning process twice a day, it will become automatic for you twice as fast. 3 times a day, 3 times as fast. Now there's a point of diminishing returns because it's not like you're going to do it 100 times today and then it'll be done because it still does take time for your brain to create these new neural connections, and these neural connections are what make it instant. So in my experience in working with my clients, 3 is really the maximum that you'll get benefit from 3 times a day. And really 2 times a day is probably all that's necessary. So 3 times a day is a lot harder to do because we're busy people, right? And the benefit beyond 2 times a day is not nearly as dramatic. But 2 times a day from 1 time a day makes it, cuts your time almost in half, really, pretty much in half. So that is worth it. So if you can manage to do it twice a day, that is what I recommend. If you can only do it once a day, it's fine. It'll just take a little longer. But that basically is the confidence on demand technique. And so it did work this time. So now we have, let's see, what time is it? Yes, we have time. Actually, I went a little bit quicker than I expected. So we have plenty of time to do a coaching exercise. So Shara, do you want to?
Yeah, so what we're going to do here is we're going to start with whoever would like to raise their hand and volunteer. Ken is actually going to take you through that very exercise, the one that he was talking about in terms of reliving your experience and the memory. In fact, Ken, if you want to bring that slide up again, we'd love to get a volunteer. So now just know that don't be too embarrassed about this, because as Ken takes you through this, you are not going to have to verbalize the memory itself unless you want to. But so we're not going to, he's not going to embarrass you that way. But he is going to guide you through a process where he will ask you about the memory and take you through this. So who would like to be a volunteer? And you can just lift your unmute yourself if you'd like to raise your hand.
Also, while we're waiting, may I ask, did my camera go black?
It did, yeah, quite a while ago, but we heard you just fine.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm going to switch my camera. This happened 2 days ago too. I was worried about that. So let me switch that over real quick. I cannot switch my camera without going out of presentation mode.
It's okay. Actually, you can. Maybe you could just do that
Here
right
we
now.
go. Actually, maybe I can. I'm sorry?
Why don't you go ahead and do that
Yeah.
so that folks can see you,
Sure.
and then you can just guide them through it.
All right, so let's see if that's going to work. Did I show up?
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm going to have to try this camera.
Oh, there you are.
Okay.
It's waiting for you now. All right.
All
right.
Sorry.
All right. So who would like to be a volunteer?
Oh, I'll volunteer.
Yay! Thank you, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, Anne.
I can.
All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk you through this, and for everybody else, sort of follow how I'm walking her through it. I call this guided imagery exercise, and you can like recall the types of things that I'm suggesting to her as for your own memories as you go through it. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to begin to breathe through your diaphragm. So, and also while you're doing this, if you're okay with it, go ahead and close your eyes. You want to get sort of inside your head and remove the distractions. So go ahead and breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. And I just was guilty of it myself. If you put your hand right here on your chest, then make sure I'm in camera because I don't see my picture here. Then make sure that I didn't share my screen again. That's what's going on.
It's okay.
Well, let me go ahead and share that because it will help for everyone else to follow along a little. I think it's this one. Let's hope that works.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so there we go. So when you breathe in through your mouth, make sure your hand doesn't come out and in. So in through your nose, rather. Your belly expands, and then out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, as you keep breathing through your diaphragm, think about this memory. First thing is, what do you see? Think about the most obvious things that you see. Where are you? Is it outdoors or is it indoors? Who's there with you? Is it with family? Are you with friends? Remember everybody that's there. And what are they wearing? Can you remember what they were wearing? And what time of year is it? Is it winter? Are you in the snow? Or summer at the beach? Or in the beach house indoors? Does it make you feel cold? Does it make you feel warm? What's everybody doing? If there's people with you, what is each person doing? Is there laughter? Is there talking? What do you see? What else do you see besides the people and things involved in your memory? Are there things in the background? Other people? If you're at an amusement park, maybe you can hear roller coasters in the background. So, I mean, see the roller coasters in the background. What do you see? Think about everything that you can see. And what do you hear? Are people talking? Are they singing? Do you hear a baby crying? Or if you're by yourself, do you just hear the wind rustling in the leaves? Or the ocean waves? Or maybe just crickets? Or just quiet? Do you hear the roller coaster in the background? Think about all the sounds not involved in your actual memory. What else is going on around you? And what do you smell? Can you remember any smells? Was it fresh cut grass? Or is someone cooking a 4-course meal? Maybe it's a holiday with your family. What else is there to smell? Can you smell cotton candy or salt water? What do you smell? And what can you taste? Are you eating a meal with your family? What did you have? Remember all the courses. Or perhaps it's cotton candy. Or maybe you're at the beach and you got some of that funnel cake. What do you taste? Can you taste the salt water in the air? Or is it an indoor memory and it's very musty? Perhaps you can taste the mustiness, smell and taste it, but that doesn't mean it can't be a happy event. What do you feel? Do you feel sand between your toes? Do you feel grass between your toes? Or maybe it's a rug. Or do you feel the fine china that your dinner is being served on, and the fine silverware, and how smooth it is? Perhaps it's somebody's clothes. Perhaps you pat someone on the back and you notice something unique about their clothes. What can you feel? Maybe you can feel your clothes against your skin. What were you touching? All the things you touched in your experience. Were you playing a game outside with balls? What did the ball feel like? Go through every sense and relive that moment. What did you see? What colors did you see? Were they bright colors, dark colors? What color clothing were people wearing? And how did it make you feel? Tap your fingers 3 times now. And who's with you? What are they doing? Did someone say something that made you laugh? Now tap your fingers 3 times. Or were you at the beach? Are you watching the boats out on the water? You just have that peacefulness inside of you that makes you feel like you didn't want that moment to ever end. And tap your fingers 3 times. And what did you hear? Did you hear a baby crying, a newborn? And you're just filled with all that love all of a sudden? Tap your fingers 3 times. What else can you hear? Are there people that you can hear talking to you? Or do you hear people in the background? What's going on? And what can you smell? Is it, if it's a newborn, do you smell that hospital smell? It's not a great smell, but it's associated with this memory. So tap your fingers 3 times. And maybe that 4-course meal is something you've never had something that good since, and you wish you could. Tap your fingers 3 times. What do you taste? Taste the food. Taste the salt in the air. Taste the cotton candy. And tap your fingers 3 times. And what do you feel? Can you feel the sand between your toes? Can you feel the sun beating down on you and keeping you so warm? It's such a good feeling. Tap your fingers 3 times. And maybe you're at a ski slope and you're about to get off the chairlift and begin on one of the hardest slopes you've ever tried, and it's exciting. Tap your fingers 3 times. Breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Tap your fingers 3 times. Okay, and now you can slowly open your eyes. Okay, and that's the exercise. So tell us, how do you feel right now?
I feel very relaxed, very calm, very happy. Very good.
Awesome. And if you had to go to a networking event right now, do you feel ready to meet new people or do something that's a little bit outside your comfort zone?
Yeah, I think I'd be okay. There's like, I don't know if confidence is the right word, but there's like this feeling of, I got this. I can do this.
Exactly. And that is exactly the feeling that you're after. So the reason it's called confidence on demand. So at first, you'll experience the feeling the way that you do. And what's going to happen is as you keep practicing this and that result becomes more instant to the tapping, you'll be able to start using it in actual events. And once you go to an event and you use this and you see how it's helped you, well, now you have that experience and now it helps you build the confidence. The confidence grows from using this in the real life scenario. So you will literally be able to call up confidence on demand whenever you need it, just by tapping your fingers. You get to the place that you're at right now. Can you imagine having the feeling you have right now without having to go through the exercise we just did?
That'd be nice.
So let's say you're in a work situation and things are getting heated. Maybe you don't have a good boss who's yelling at people for, yelling at the subordinates or something, and you need to be professional and keep your cool. Guess what? You can use it for that. I've had clients tell me that they used it to prevent road rage when somebody cut them off and did something really horrible, and instead of letting it get to them and getting worked up over it, they just used this and kept driving. Like it just made it go away. So you can find all kinds of other uses for this. And the more frequently you practice it, the more quickly you will get to the place that you're at right now. And congratulations for such a great result on the first try.
Thank you. May I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
There was a good to put my hand on my heart because initially I could feel it coming from the diaphragm and then, got it through the belly. But I found that I could breathe out through my nose and still feel like it was coming from the belly and not the diaphragm.
Yeah.
Is that cool? I mean,
Well, you do want to breathe out through the mouth
okay.
because what's actually happening is it goes through different airways then when you do that, and that's the process that helps the body relax.
Okay.
Now, I know that this works and I know how to do it, but I do not know like why this works. I couldn't tell you that. Like I do know somebody who used to coach, or not used to, I'm sorry. He he coaches on all these different breathing techniques to get all different types of results. And he got these techniques from what the Army uses to treat PTSD. And they're the same techniques that the Army teaches when they're treating people for PTSD. And you can use these techniques to get all kinds of different results. And this is one that's known to help you relax. And like I said, even my daughter's meditation tapes, smell the flower, now blow the dandelion, so you do need to blow out through the mouth is preferred. But it's okay. You got to a relaxed state. That's what we're after. Now, in a situation where you might begin to start feeling some real anxiety, like if you do get anxiety when you're networking or whatnot, or maybe it's a different situation for you, then breathing in through the nose and out through the nose won't really have that same effect. We're in a controlled environment here. There's not really any danger because there was nothing at stake on any level. And it's great that you were able to practice that and experience it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think, let's see, we have, there's definitely time. If anybody has other questions at the moment, I'm happy to take questions.
I have a question. This is Rich Ann. So you're doing the diaphragmatic breathing all throughout the exercise, correct?
If you can remember to. I mean, personally, when I was first doing it, I would get to a relaxed state and then forget, and it didn't matter because I was already relaxed.
Okay,
So
got
it's
it.
really that what you're trying to do is slow the heart rate and relax. And if you're in that state, then it's fine. You really want to be focusing on the memory, not the breathing. The breathing is to help get you into that frame of mind.
Thank you. And would you share how did you come upon this anchor with the finger tapping?
That's a great question. Basically, it's a long way around. I was coaching clients on beating procrastination, believe it or not. And with procrastination, it turns out it's the same problem as stage fright, which is procrastination is an activation of a fight or flight response. So in researching ways to help get over the procrastination, basically I needed to find some way to help them take whatever it is that's blocking them from doing the activity that they're putting off, that they won't do, and getting past it. And I read a lot of books and a lot of material on productivity and self-help and all of those things. And I'm not going to pretend that I came up with the association. What I've done is string all the things that I've learned together into this technique. But I read in a book basically about the conditioning, and it made it click. It's like we can use that to do this, right? And then when I learned about how procrastination and stage fright is similar, this is really the same, almost the same training as procrastination. So there's a pro tip for you. If you are a procrastinator, you can use this same idea. Well, it has to be modified a little. But you can use sort of a similar technique to get past procrastination. So that was pretty much how I came to it. I was reading a book on something different, and this technique was talked about in a different context. And I decided I can use this for this reason, but it was in terms of procrastination at the time. And it worked. I tried it with some clients, and they're happy to experiment with me a little bit, and it worked beautifully.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
So
I have one question. So would you suggest like using the same example all the time, or like just to think about like different examples?
yes, so definitely the same one. And the reason is, if you recall, our goal is not to relive the experience. Our goal is to simply get the emotion. We're using the experience for the emotion, if you will. So once you finish conditioning and the taps are associated with that emotion, you don't even have to think about the experience anymore. It's just tap, 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 and then it brings it up. And so if you start changing the experience each time, it's not going to work, because what you need is the repetition. You need the repetition of the same things being associated for the brain to make the neural connection. So that's why habits form. You do the same thing over and over, and your brain says, hey, this is something that I should remember. So it creates new neural connections to make that happen automatically. So you don't have to use all the brain power to do it by thinking anymore. I mean, think about if you still had to think about, all right, turn signal, turn the wheel, step on the gas. Remember when you were first driving, how hard all that was? You had to think about each of the steps individually. And now you can like be listening to the radio and talking on the phone and driving at the same time. Of course, don't do all of those things maybe at the same time, because we know distracted driving is a bad thing now. But the point being that you're not thinking about the driving anymore. And that's because of those neural connections. And that's the same thing we're generating by creating this conditioning. Did that help?
Yeah, thank you.
So I have one more thing I can share, which I left out of this presentation because I thought we were going to be shorter on time, but I guess I went quickly. Once you have finished the conditioning process and you do have that association, you sort of have to keep doing it, the exercise. Not every day, but now you can maybe do it once a week. Now, if you're using confidence on demand in your life daily, then you don't need to do the exercise anymore. But you do need to keep making that association, because there's something called the extinction period. And what that means is if this is not used for a period of time, your brain will let go of this. And that association will not be there the next time that you need it at a networking event or a speaking engagement or whatever situation you need it for. And so in order to maintain that association, you need to still do this exercise, let's say once a week, once every other week. Probably once a week is a better bet, unless you're using it in your daily life, or you're using it at least once a week, just naturally in different situations. So the good news is, if you do lose that connection, it's much quicker to make the association again. So it won't take you 2 to 3 months anymore. It might be like another week or something, or a week and a half, but the association won't be as strong the next time. So it's better to not lose the connection, to not lose the association. And so basically, once you've made that connection, just go ahead and, keep doing this exercise once in a while, or if you're not using it naturally. So yeah, just wanted to throw that in because that's helpful. Any further questions? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong camera. I'm sorry, I forgot because it went dead.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ken. That was great. We appreciate your time and just the really
pleasure.
solid advice there. Oh, and by the way, before we let you go here, go ahead, if you want to go ahead and change your slide, Ken, to share people, you have an offering for them?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, this is there we go. Yes, so I do have, as I said, I work with clients on actually eliminating stage fright. So confidence on demand, you can think of like a Band-Aid. So when you get a cut, you put the Band-Aid on, and you can use confidence on demand to suppress the fight or flight response when you're networking or when you need to speak or whenever you feel you might have that nervousness or anxiety in a situation. So, but it doesn't actually get rid of the anxiety. You will still get the anxiety whether you use the confidence on demand or not to sort of mitigate it. The next level would be to actually eliminate the fight or flight response altogether so that you have no need to use confidence on demand. So I do have a training for that called Reprogram. And it's something that I do offer. And for this group, I'm offering a 50% off coupon. And so if right now, I had some difficulties with my cart, so I don't have a link for you at the moment, but if you are interested in learning more about that, or you want to talk to me about it, you can send me an email, ken@stagefrightrelief.com, and I will get that coupon code to you. If you want to learn more about what I do, the site is discover.stagefrightrelief.com, so feel free to check that out. And yeah, and that's it. So if you want to actually eliminate the fight or flight response permanently, then I can help you with that. And or you can use confidence on demand, which is a fantastic technique that lots of my clients just love. So I want to thank you so much, Shira, for having me here.
Thank you, Ken.
Today. Oh, sorry, I guess I forgot to delete that temporary one.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. And actually, just to kind of wrap things up here, for those of you who are new to BoomerWorks, a couple ways for you to keep in touch with us. The first is we are on social media. So here are our handles, Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. If you want to take a picture of that, you're certainly welcome to. And in addition, if you have questions for us, email us at info@boomerworks.org. If you'd like to contribute to our organization, we are completely volunteer. We'd love to get your support. If you want to volunteer with us, happy to have you. And then at the very least, if you have not already joined our community, which is free, you go to boomerworks.org and there's a join button in the upper right-hand corner. You can be on our mailing list. Some of you, I think, heard of us through Meetup, but we do have a formal mailing list just to make sure that you are keeping up with what we're doing. And we do offer twice monthly programs. So we have an educational program like this, and then 2 weeks after that, approximately, is what we call a growth group. And growth group is a peer networking roundtable for those of you who are at any stage of self-employment. Either you're considering it, you're partway through, you're way down the road on your journey. We are here to support you. It's myself and Michael Butera and several other self-employment experts, and we're here to help walk you through and answer your questions in a really safe space. So that's what we're here for. All right. So with that, we thank everybody for joining us. We wish everybody a blessed evening. And if you would like to see this recording, you would go to boomerworks.org, go to the Training Center tab, and we're going to have a new tab around networking and business development, and this recording will be there for you. Okay, so thanks everyone. Have a good night.